Okay, and welcome to our first intern panel for the summer. We have Jamie Curtis with us and Jackie Dacco and Justin Fossum. And I'm not going to give you too much detail because that's part of their presentation to share a little bit about themselves and their early career with Corning. So on that note, I'm going to kick it off to Justin, Jackie, and Jamie.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah,
Jamie, do you want to just start the introduction since you're on the left side?
So hi, everyone. My name is Jamie Curtis. I have worked for Corning for just over 2 years. I started working here after I graduated from Georgia Tech in 2018, where I studied material science and engineering. I now work in science and technology in development for emerging innovations, new programs group. So I work in technology development for new projects for a bunch of new things that Corning is not currently involved in. I also had 3 internships with Corning, one of which was at our own plant, and then 2 were at Sullivan Park in Emerging Innovations Group as well.
And hi, I'm Jackie Dacco. I studied biological engineering at Cornell, and I've also been with Corning for about 2 years now. And so I have an engineering background, and so I started in R&D in Sullivan Park, and then moved on to more of a product management internship, and then I joined the rotation program in the life sciences division, where I kind of got to see the commercial perspective of things, and now I'm a product manager.
Hi, everybody. Justin Fossum. Studied at Alfred University, class of 2018. Got a degree in mechanical engineering. I work for Advanced Manufacturing Technologies, a group of manufacturing technology and engineering, which is one of the 5 divisions at Corning. We focus on early stage development and scientific product research. So similar to like what Jamie does with emerging innovations group development, when they come up with some product, they might contact my group and say, hey, we need a machine that can do this more. So I work as a mechanical engineer designing equipment there. I've worked just about 2 years at Corning. It'll be 2 years on Thursday. And I did 2 internships. My first one was with Corning Display Technologies at headquarters when they were still at headquarters. And then the second one was in the group that I'm currently employed in.
But prior to you guys joining us, we actually had some interns write in some questions. And one of them is asking for some guidance on how to prepare for the interview and what common criteria should be given before the interview.
I would say definitely do your research, not just about the company itself and, whatever division you're applying for, but also, if they provide a list of interviewers, I would do a little bit of research on them and what kind of background they have, just because I think that makes it a little bit easier to converse with them and try to make your experiences a little more relatable so that you can more efficiently communicate, what your capabilities are.
So one thing that I always experience in interviews, especially for internships, was a lot of the questions are behavioral. So it's okay if you don't have a lot of background and a lot of experience. They just want to know what you're like because they want to give you a chance if they like you. So knowing your resume pretty much inside out, so if they ask about any parts of it, and just having a friendly, positive attitude can also go a long way as well.
Definitely agreed on all of those points. It's as Jamie said, it's more behavioral. So you got the interview because they think you already have the technical skill set to be effective at this job for this internship. So you're there talking to them to be personable and for them to get to know you and see if you might fit in with the group.
Thank you. One of the other questions that we got was they would like to know how you use the topics you learned in class and applied it in Corning. The person asking is from the field of industrial engineering, so they would like to know how to apply their industrial engineering knowledge in the company. Can any of you talk to that?
So I actually
Or how you
messaged
apply?
one who's an industrial engineer about this because I saw this question. And so he was saying that he works in MTE, Manufacturing, Technology, and Engineering, and he's on the industrial and lean engineering team. And he was saying that they help all the different divisions at Corning. So everything ranging from life sciences to environmental technologies, so he gets to see different parts of the entire company. Working on things like layout optimization, discrete event simulation, cost modeling, and application of lean methodologies and tools. Let's see, so he says also simulation modeling and production planning. And then what I do so I study material science. What I do on that, it's really kind of a continuation of stuff I learned in school. It's not directly like just what I learned in class. It's, oh, you learned about fluid dynamics, you learned about surfaces, let's go apply that to solve real world problems, which I think is really cool.
Okay. One of the other questions, what was it like to be an intern and what type of projects did you get to work on? What was the atmosphere?
So in general, the atmosphere,
do
you want to go ahead?
No, sorry, Jackie, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I would just say in general, the atmosphere was super supportive. I think most people who are taking in interns are just glad to have a fresh face on their team. So, definitely a positive atmosphere. And I think they understand that you're an intern and you might not have a lot of industrial experience, and that's okay. I mean, everyone started somewhere, right? And so they definitely have empathy and are so willing to help you, whether that's about learning the company's culture or about, whatever technical work you're doing. There's a really good or like strong sense of, allowing interns to do things like smart interviews where you host like one-on-ones and get to know people. And I think that's really helpful in not just learning about the work culture, but also, people's paths to where they got to now.
I would definitely agree with that, Jackie. The culture and atmosphere is wonderful. Being an intern, it really opens up good doors for you to be able to get into those smart interviews and meet with people that might not normally make time to potentially have meetings with everyone. But because you're an intern, you're at the company for a limited period of time. They really want to make sure that you get what you want out of it, and whether that's networking and learning about other industries within the company, other paths forward, or just because you're interested in those topics as well. It's really good to network and get out there. And again, everyone's very kind and willing, and you can ask questions all the time. And they have actual projects for you to work on. It's not some tedious task that the management has come up with. It's you actually have impact on some of the work that Corning is trying to do within their businesses.
Okay. One of the other questions we just had come in is, I noticed that everybody on this panel has had more than one internship. How much of a role did your internships play in helping you decide what you wanted to do?
So I guess my internship taught me that I really liked the culture at Corning. Everybody is really friendly and open, like Jackie and Justin were saying. And that taught me that even though I don't necessarily know exactly what I want to do career-wise and where I want to go, if I want to have a technical role forever, if I want to move into management or commercial, Corning is a place, I learned that Corning is a place that would help me figure all that out. So that helped me feel really confident about deciding to work here, and that I wouldn't just be pigeonholed into doing one thing. I knew I'd have the opportunity to explore different things.
Yeah, I would say my internships definitely had a big role in deciding, whether I wanted to come back and what team I wanted to come back to, because my initial internship was very much research-based, and I was in the lab all the time. And then, my second internship was product management, so it was much more business focused, which is something I'd never done. But I'm glad I had the opportunity to try out that business side when I had, basically just been in the lab for most of my career. And that's when I realized that, and also the rotation program is how I realized, okay, well, I like research, but I think I like business more.
Yeah, almost the same thing. So my first internship was interesting and I learned a lot, but I realized I wasn't a huge fan of working on those types of projects, which is primarily what that group did. So I found the second internship. It was actually set up from the group that I worked on with my first internship. So that was really nice because when you work with someone, they try to help you out when you're further along. So they helped set up my second internship, and I realized I really liked the group that they did and the work that they were doing, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm pretty happy, and the longer the internship and the more time that you have to experience at the company, whether that's through multiple internships or not, even the potential of co-ops for even other companies, it helps out to figure out what atmospheres and conditions you like to work in or not.
Good. I'm a student in the GST STEM Academy, and next year I'm supposed to have an internship with Corning. What would be the best plant to go to for an internship? I've been thinking of the IDM building across from the Irwin plant. Do any of you have an opinion on that?
So in my experience, you don't necessarily get to pick your location. It's more, if there's multiple listings, you can apply and you might see what location they're at. Sorry, my cat's walking behind me. You might see in different listings where the location is. But usually a position comes with a defined location. I don't believe IDM usually has that many interns. From what I've heard, it's an interesting location, but I think the majority of interns at Corning usually sit either at Sullivan Park or at Decker Building. So that's usually in science and technology or manufacturing technology and engineering. And then there's a handful of interns at each of the plants, both here and then around the country, if my understanding. And they're all good.
Thanks, Jamie. I am a grad student from Penn State University, specializing in industrial engineering. My question is how to approach recruiters for internships at university career fairs.
So I can help take this one. So as a recruiter for Alfred University, I actually go to the Alfred Career Fair now, and I am one of the recruiters for Corning for internships. One of the best things that I've seen for students to do is to just, you come up and you just kind of start a conversation. So students that seem timid or uncomfortable with the idea of approaching a recruiter, it's not standoffish, but it minimizes the experience that the recruiter has. It's harder to communicate to someone that feels, in my situation, would feel like they didn't want to be in that conversation with you. So honestly, when I first went for my internship, I just approached Corning's booth and talked to a recruiter, not because I wanted to work for Corning, but actually because I didn't want to work for Corning. And I was just trying to get experience getting conversations. That ended up turning into an internship a year later. And obviously now I'm here, so I enjoyed it, and it didn't go as planned, but just talking to them as you would anyone else really goes a long way while you're still trying to be technical in discussions once you get into some more information.
Yeah, and I would say I was one of those timid interviewees back when I was an undergrad, and I think one of the ways I kind of overcame that is by starting the conversations by kind of asking questions about the company. Of course, it's nice to go up to a recruiter having some of the basic information, like what does the company do, or things like that. But I think asking them about what's the culture like, or what kind of opportunities would be available, I think is a good way for you to kind of start a conversation without having to have a whole pitch lined up if you don't have one or aren't comfortable sharing one right off the bat. And I think at least starting the conversation will help you be more comfortable talking to a recruiter, and then you'll be able to share more about, you know, what you've done and what you're capable of.
Yeah, and if you have the opportunity to go to a career fair when you're not really looking for something, just to go and practice, that's good too.
That's good advice. Is it difficult to join a company if someone is not an intern there? I don't know if any of you would be able to answer that, or if E could answer it from his experience of campus recruiting and doing recruiting.
Hey, Karen, it cut out just a little bit. Could you repeat that question?
Yep, I'm sorry. Can you hear me okay now?
Yep.
Okay. Is it difficult to join a company if someone is not an intern there?
I would say the short version is no, because ideally what we're looking for are skills that are transferable and skills that can be leveraged in the course of an internship. So while you may not have necessarily been an intern with us, if you'd interned elsewhere, or if you know, taken it upon yourself to develop your skills in your off time, those are all things that will be attractive to a potential manager who's hiring for an intern. Or a full-time hire for that matter as well too. So I would say obviously you'd have a leg up if you interned with us, but as long as you have internship experience and experience that's applicable to the role that you're applying for, you have a good shot of getting in the door.
Thank you, E. How would a full-time interview be different from an intern interview? Did you see a difference in from when you interviewed for your internship to your full-time role?
I think kind of like Jamie was saying earlier, the internship interviews tend to be a little bit more behavioral. And I think the full-time ones have a few more rounds or more people that you have to interview with, and they can get a little more technical since you have built a little more experience.
Okay. Justin or Jamie, did you have anything to add to that?
I
Nope,
didn't have a different interview process. I was fortunate enough that I had the single interview for my first internship, and then the subsequent interviews with the group that I went to for my second internship was more of a one-on-one interview just to kind of chat. And then my full-time interview was just my second internship entirely, as I was hired into the same group that I interned for.
Okay. How would you go about looking for an intern position if you want to work for a particular group? I'm looking in the life sciences department for next summer, ideally.
Sounds like a Jackie question.
Sure is. Love to see those life sciences people. I don't know how the listings work exactly, but I think they do list internships by division or location as well.
Yep.
I know the logistics of that might be more of a E or Karen question.
Yeah, so they do. We do list our internships by division and also by location. If you're looking for something in the life sciences group, I would recommend absolutely using the keywords life sciences, and then from a geographical standpoint, more than likely you're either going to be in Corning, New York, or somewhere in New England, Virginia, or North Carolina, which is where our life sciences facilities are.
And we'll start posting them usually in early fall, like September timeframe.
Yep. Usually like late September, early October.
Yep. I know of a few companies that have a rotation program for some of their internships. Does Corning have rotation programs for internships or other positions?
Sounds like another Jackie question.
So intern program and rotation program are kind of separate. I think typically intern programs are during the summer or sometimes in the co-op style where it's during the, a single semester or quarter. And then the rotation program that I was in was specifically for the commercial side of life sciences. And so, and that's just one of the few other rotation programs that are available at Corning. But mine was a 1-year rotation program where I rotated through a bunch of different teams for various amounts of time. And so I went to teams like strategy, product management, even customer service. I was literally picking up a phone and saying, how can I help you? But it was definitely good. It was a really good way to kind of empathize with everyone that you work with and understand where everyone's coming from so that, later on when you have your full-time job, you have a better understanding of, why are they reacting like this, or, how can I communicate with them to have them understand where I'm coming from as well. So I think rotation programs are a really great thing if you have the opportunity.
Thank you. So this might be an question. This year, my college will likely not have a career fair. Do you have any ideas for a way I can do more than just an online application for full time?
Ooh, that is a very good question. Doing more. Let's see. I would absolutely, if you've had an opportunity to do like a virtual or an internship in the past, I would certainly look for opportunities this summer to build upon those skills so that you can beef up your resume. The phrase I like to use is that the resume tells, but your accomplishments sell. So if you've got any really cool achievements that you can speak to, any types of projects that you've worked on, any skill building and things like that you've done to help beef up that resume. And then the other thing would be a shameless plug here, joining the Corning talent community where you can get all kinds of great information about the organization, job opportunities, and things like that as well, and getting connected to a recruiter and just making sure that you do what you can to establish that relationship with whatever recruiter you're interested in for whichever company, even if it's outside of Corning.
Mm-hmm.
And on LinkedIn, I've seen a lot of other companies also do things like this, where it's like a workshop or a panel. And so I would say do some research on LinkedIn or just a Google search. I've also seen multiple companies come together to do almost like a conference, like a virtual conference. And obviously the networking experiences there are a little bit different because everything's online and so much different from, seeing someone in person. But I think actually because of that, people are more willing to, just send a link to their LinkedIn or start, a chat. So I think people are adapting the kind of recruitment process.
Absolutely.
And also, do you have any professors that you think you might be able to do research for online over the summer or in the fall? I would suggest reaching out to them. Worst case, they say no, but they might be trying to figure out how to do online research more effectively, even if it's just data analysis. That's a great skill. So see if they can help you build skills as well.
Good advice. Thank you. Is Corning planning on participating in virtual or in-person career fairs for the coming semester?
And Karen, I did answer that one in the chat. Yes, we will absolutely be participating in virtual events this fall.
Thank you. Okay. I am a senior in chemical engineering, and I was supposed to have an internship this summer. But due to the current situation, I was not able to do my internship, and I don't have as much experience as I would like to. Do you think this will affect when I apply for a full-time position in Corning?
So if you already were offered an internship position, but the company had to rescind that offer due to the current situation, you're within our talent pipeline, right? So you've already been identified as someone that the company would want to work with, applying to one of a permanent full-time position. It's likely that HR would have that information that you were supposed to have an internship. Karen, you might be able to speak a little bit better on that. But my thought is it shouldn't hurt you because the company had to cancel the internships.
Yep. And if you have a connection with a recruiter from when you were first applying for the job and being screened for just different roles, reach back out to that person, or even to E, Jess, or I as we get going towards later summer, early September.
And also, so many people who are graduating with you who were going to have internships at other companies that also got canceled will be in the same situation. It's not like they're the only one. Yeah. So, yeah.
What has challenged you the most during your internships, and how did you overcome the challenges?
So one thing that,
because like,
oh, go ahead, Jackie.
Go ahead. Okay, I'll go. So I would say because I came from a very like STEM heavy background, and then I was, I entered this like more industrial kind of company. I think being able to translate, the data and the work that I did into a language that was more, I won't say comprehensible, but something that made sense to, the finance or the business people, I think was something that I struggled with initially because I was so used to being in a lab just talking to other scientists or other engineers. And so, kind of learning how to speak other people's languages was kind of a struggle, I would think. But I think that's something that comes with, presentation skills and just general communication skills.
So I mean, Jackie, that's a great one. I think that's probably going to be a challenge for a lot of people to be able to, communicate effectively in your role as your role changes throughout your employment. One thing that challenged me is doing a task that was more in depth related to an advanced technical field that I was not super familiar with. One of my projects involved some heavy, detailed, innovative technical work in a field that I was not experienced in and did not necessarily cover in great detail other than the basics while in school. So I grabbed a book and I would spend some nights reading. I'd spend the day at work reading and working out problems and getting a better understanding of this technical field. And you just kind of have to work through it. And I can say that I'm now reasonably well versed in that technical subject.
One other thing that can be challenging is a lot of the time in college there is a right answer. Even if you're doing a lab, the professor still has the answer. And when you're working, whether it's technical or just making a decision, there usually isn't a right answer. And there might be nobody in the world that knows the answer. And just coming to terms with that can be a little bit challenging, just getting used to transitioning into the answer isn't really available. I have to either find it or make assumptions and justify it. It's a little different, but it is fun.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think kind of having this like open-ended question feels very difficult sometimes when you're so used to just answering very straight-on answers. But I think your experiences kind of help you build a logic path to get to, the best answer that you can when it comes to those kinds of open-ended questions or, problems.
Thank you. I'm currently working as a research intern this summer. I'm wondering how much focus employers have on the importance of GPA. Is there more weight behind club involvement and getting involved in the community or education?
So one thing that I was told during my initial approach of the Corning recruiter, my freshman year of college, was that I had a good GPA, but I was not involved in anything. So it didn't show that I was either well-rounded or necessarily had time management skills. So a good GPA is a great thing. It means that you're able to understand course material, but being involved in clubs or student activities, student government, anything that's in the local area that you're able to put down on your resume shows that you not only have the knowledge and skill sets to be able to dedicate yourself to study and understanding technical knowledge, but you also have the time management skills to be able to perform in other categories, and keep up with hobbies and other tasks. And that can potentially be good for future employers because that means you might have a good work-life balance because you're not fully dedicated to doing schoolwork all the time, and you have other hobbies and interests. Corning is pretty big on the individual and making sure that everyone is living their best life. So, you can, some people might work 60 hours, but you don't have to. If you can get your work done and, your standard work week, it's beneficial to then relax, spend time with friends, go for a hike, explore the surrounding area and just make sure you're happy outside of work too. You'll end up doing better at work.
Nice. Does Corning offer any opportunities? I'm sorry.
Sorry, I forgot I was on mute.
Okay,
I didn't have the highest GPA in college, but definitely like having experience helped. And also just one story I heard was someone I went to college with, was he was a transfer student and he had like his original college that he started at GPA and not Georgia Tech's GPA on it. And so like he got into a situation where they thought he was lying about GPAs. So just if any of you are transfer students or have GPAs from just like a certain summer study abroad program or something like that, just be careful because you really, even if you are not trying to lie about your GPA, and I'm sure you're not trying to, just like be careful. You don't want that to happen to you. Just put your GPA on there or don't put it on at all. I would recommend.
Yeah, and kind of staying on that GPA conversation, I think from, all the recruiters I've talked to in the past, GPA is kind of, it's like, okay, after this certain number, like, okay, let's talk to this person. It's kind of like a foot in the door, and it's, I don't know, I think for some companies it's kind of an arbitrary number, but I wouldn't stress too much about, getting that A+ or whatever. I think you should also focus on, building your experience and being able to talk about those experiences.
Thank you. Does Corning offer any opportunities to pursue a master's or a graduate degree while still working as a full-time employee?
I can actually take that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm actually pursuing my master's degree currently, while still a full-time employee. So my business unit approached me and I was originally deciding whether or not I was going to go to full-time employment or pursue a master's degree, or sorry, a PhD. When I accepted the job, they came to me about, 8 months later and said, hey, I know that you were initially interested in pursuing an advanced degree. Do you still have an interest in that? If so, the company would be willing to pay potentially for some of your classes. And there's contingencies and stuff involved with that and agreements. But the company does support going back to school and getting advanced degrees, especially if it helps that specific business unit. So it changes for each division and each business unit, and even sometimes within each group of a division. But I can speak on MT&E. So MT&E, you need to work at the company for 2 years before they're going to be reimbursing your college tuition. But they will work with you to try to make sure that you can achieve what you want if you want a further degree. That was something that you should probably talk to your manager first, and then they would likely follow up with you with your HR manager.
Thank you, Justin. How did, if at all, networking play a role in landing any of your internships?
So for me, networking didn't help me land my first internship. Just going to a career fair and then applying online got me that. But going from my second internship, or my first to my second internship, and then to my third, and then to full-time, networking just helped me get to know more people. Not every group necessarily has an intern every year or has the ability to hire full-time someone who interns in their group. So just getting to know more people who knew my boss, that sort of thing, or who worked in similar groups in other parts of the company or could offer career advice helped me get the subsequent internships. And then even now, like, there's still people that I talk to who I met via networking. There's people I'm friends with. So I would really recommend networking in general.
Yeah, I would just to piggyback on that. I would say that networking is a really valuable tool, and if when you guys are fortunate enough to have actual internships, take every advantage of every opportunity presented to you, because obviously you're going to be there to do work and gain knowledge, but it's also an opportunity for you to gain valuable intel on the organization, on the people, and to make inroads with people who can eventually offer you a gateway to employment. So again, take advantage of every opportunity given you.
Yeah, I would say the networking didn't necessarily play a role in me actually getting that offer letter, but I think it definitely played a very strong role in helping me understand if this was a place I wanted to come back to, or just getting to know all the different people that work in different teams and divisions that you might work with later on. Yeah.
For my initial internship, networking was reasonably important. My freshman year, I saw the same recruiter as I did my sophomore and junior year. So I made that connection. I continued that connection throughout my freshman year. And then when I saw that same recruiter again at the career fair sophomore year, we had stayed in touch. He knew who I was. He knew what I had been working on. And that's what ended up leading to my first internship. But everyone's going to have a different position. My school happened to be rather small. Corning's only 45 minutes from it. We bring alums from our school specifically back to our career fair. So it happened to be a good situation for that.
Thank you. Do you guys have any tips for preparing for an intern interview?
So there's a lot of lists online of behavioral interview questions, and your college's like career departments probably have a bunch of lists like that as well. I would recommend looking at resources like that for an intern interview specifically. It's just going to be questions about you, like describe an experience where you were challenged, things like that, which you have all the answers to. It's just like practicing helps you be able to say it a little bit more eloquently.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You will see a ton of listing, typical interview questions, and I think it's good to prepare answers for them, and get yourself ready to say it, like Jamie said, in an eloquent way. But I also would say, don't sound like a robot. Don't just memorize this, paragraph and then say it for every question that you get. I think, just format like almost like an outline in your head of like, if I get this kind of question, I'll, list these experiences or whatever. And I think that you should also learn how to kind of adapt your answers based on the context and the way they ask the question, or, who the interviewer is.
Jackie, I think this next one's actually for you. How hard was it to change between departments, primarily from STEM to business?
In terms of getting the actual job, it wasn't too difficult. It was just another, application process. And then specifically because I went into a rotation program, they had the understanding that not everyone going into this program was going to have business background. So fortunately, that helped me out. But I think in general, I think if you express an interest in that new field or a willingness to learn, you're much more likely to be able to break into that segment. And then in terms of actually learning everything once I got there, there definitely was a learning curve. But I think with most things, the logic behind what you do is the same. It's just different applications, right? Like I was working with data in a lab, and now I'm working with data, but now it's just dollars, not the number of cells, that kind of thing. So I expect a learning curve, but I don't think it's as daunting as you might think it is.
Thank you. In mechanical engineering roles, are the tasks closer to R&D, manufacturing new products, or are they more to improve existing processes?
So it depends what group of Corning you're in specifically. So even within manufacturing technology and engineering, there are different groups that focus on new product development. So early stage, it's a brand new machine. Corning's never made one. Maybe there's not one like this in the world. It's something brand new. We're working on inventing all of these tactics to be able to create this product. And then there's groups that focus on, hey, we have this factory. We're going to be building a new factory. Let's look at all of our lines. Let's optimize our lines. Let's see what didn't work in some of the old equipment. Let's redesign. Maybe we can get more product made per hour. Maybe we can improve efficiency, whether it's electrically, pneumatically, hydraulically, anything like that. So it really depends what group you start in. And that's information that you can probably ask during an interview if you were to get it. But some groups might have descriptions in their offers about what this role primarily is, whether it's early stage or later stage, whether it involves new ideas or improvement on ideas.
Thank you. What do you think made you stand out as an intern? How did you make an impact, and what differentiates a good intern from a not so good intern?
I think this is an interesting question, and I want to be careful in how I answer it because I don't want to create this like one mold of a good intern because I don't think there's just one form of a good intern. I think it's really dependent on who you are and what your strengths are, and then also what kind of team you're working with. And so I guess in general, a good intern or a good employee in general would be, someone who shows up to work and does what you promise to do. And that promise kind of depends on the expectations that you set with your manager, and also just being really honest with yourself about what your strengths are and, what your weaknesses are. And if you have certain weaknesses you want to work on, creating a path for yourself to strengthen those. I think that'll just kind of naturally lead to a place where your strengths and your motivations will kind of align. And I think sometimes that'll require patience. But yeah, just in general, try your best.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think one other thing that helped me stand out, and again, this is for my boss and his personality and my department and all that, so it might be different case by case. One thing that helped me was when I didn't know something, I tried to find an answer by asking people other than my boss first, because my boss is super busy. So if I can find the answer online or by asking another coworker who's less busy, I think that made me come across as resourceful versus if I just asked him all the questions, he might have gotten a little bit annoyed. I mean, I definitely asked him some questions, and again, that is going to be case by case. But I found for me that was helpful.
I agree with all of those. Jackie and Jamie, you really said it. Delivering on results of what you said you would deliver on is a great thing to do. So knowing what you can do, what you can deliver on, and then estimating your time frame to be able to accomplish those. That's really what someone is looking for in an employee, right? So your internship is a screening to, one, to give you experience, but two, to see if you would be a good fit at the company for a full-time role too. So be cautious of that. And then also your resourcefulness. So are you able to explore solutions from other individuals rather than relying on a single source the entire time, whether that's your boss. A lot of times you're sitting next to other experienced engineers, ask them. When I first started, my office mate was a person that was very helpful to me because I would ask about whether it would be policy, organizational information, or location of information within our internal sites. So.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to that networking thing where, try to get to know the, people outside of your immediate team, and also the people in your immediate team, but, kind of understand which people you can go to for certain types of questions. Just understand the person, I think would be a helpful part of what Jamie was kind of saying.
Thank you. It's great advice. Jackie, you have a question coming at you. Is there anything you would add if you want to intern for life sciences in particular, other than what is listed in the job description? Also, if you are missing a skill or two, will you be considered for an internship?
That's a lot of questions. I think the application process within life sciences is no different from all the other divisions. I guess the one thing is that there are probably fewer positions just because life sciences is one of the smaller divisions in comparison to the other ones. In terms of skill sets, if you're missing a skill or two, yes, I think you could still be considered for an internship. But I think you could say that about any position. And I guess kind of going back to, the fact that life sciences is smaller, there are, I think, kind of like fewer resources compared to the larger divisions, but that doesn't mean your work is going to be hindered in any way. But I think life sciences is so different from the other divisions in the sense that we're not as material science focused. We're a lot more biology based, which is very different from what Corning as a company is very used to. So I guess expect kind of differences in the way management handles life sciences. But I think as an intern, you won't really see that.
Thank you, Jackie. What was your favorite assignment, and was there any part you did not enjoy?
It's kind of hard to pick one favorite assignment. I think they're all valuable in different ways, but actually I think, so the first time I had been a product management intern, which was the first time I'd ever stepped out of engineering, was very difficult because I had to learn so much, but at the same time, I look back and I know that I learned so much within that short time frame. So even though in the moment it felt really tough, I think that was probably one of the most valuable experiences I had. And so, I don't know, it's kind of funny because that's the part I didn't enjoy, but it's also my favorite assignment at the same time. And I guess in general, being an intern, I guess for the most part are undergrads, and you're used to being surrounded by students your age with similar mindsets, and then going into a company where there's a bunch of experts who have experience, years of experience and PhDs, feels a bit scary. But as long as you have logic behind what you're saying, don't be afraid to speak up because people will listen to you. And maybe that's just because I'm shy, but that was definitely something that kind of scared me at first.
Yeah, and I don't think that's unique to just interning either. I think even early in your career, so I had a similar example. After I was hired full-time, I was doing something for optical fiber, and optical fiber as an industry is like 20, 30 years older than I am. And some of the people I work with have been working in it since like day one. So being expected to come up with like new ideas that they hadn't thought of, even though they've been working on it for like 40 years, can be kind of intimidating. But it's also a cool opportunity once you get used to it And once you're like, oh, like I do actually have value, having fresh eyes is helpful. And like they certainly say that all the time. Like, thank you for having a fresh perspective. We wouldn't have thought about it that way. So that can be challenging, but it's also really rewarding when you can just notice something that people who haven't noticed because we've been looking at it for years and years.
Okay, we are in the final 10 minutes, and I have one more question. What advice do you have for future interns?
This is hard. I feel like I'm always the one asking for advice and not the one giving it. But I would say, I mean, an internship is, you know, a very short amount of time, and it'll fly by, honestly. And so, like Etienne was saying, you know, take advantage of every opportunity that you have. Whether or not you think you'll get anything from it, you probably will, like in unexpected ways, and that might lead to your next opportunity, and you never know. So I think Corning does a really good job of, you know, setting up events and activities, and also there's a ton of like ERGs, which are employee resource groups. And so there's a bunch of different communities within the company as well. And so, you know, just try out everything. That's kind of what an internship is for. So it's not just about, you know, the work that you put out, but also the experience that you gain, whether that's, you know, inside your office or, you know, with other interns or employees.
So in college, there's a big focus on getting your first job, and I didn't see as much focus on what's next. So if you are able to network with people who started in a similar position or with a similar degree to what you have, and then see where they ended up and what choices they made to bring them into management or to stay doing technical things or transitioning from one sort of work to another type of work. That's really interesting because a year or two into your career, you really are thinking about that, and you probably hadn't been thinking about that while in college. So if you're able to get a head start on that and talk to people and figure out, like, they stayed doing this sort of role for a long time because they have whatever personality traits that make them really suitable for it, or they started off doing one thing and didn't love it because of whatever personality traits, trying to identify in yourself, like, oh, maybe I have an aptitude for this. I think that's really helpful if you have a chance.
Another thing for future interns, when you're going to a new environment, explore that environment. You know, if you're fortunate enough that the company that you're getting an internship for helps you with housing or helps you with food, or you get a stipend for the summer, and you know, even if they're still paying you, right? So you're going to this new environment, go explore it. Reach out to other interns, try to become friendly with them. Focus on activities that aren't necessarily focused around the company or around the job itself. Again, just pushing that work-life balance, understanding the area. As an intern will really help you understand if you really wanted to move to that area full-time if you were to receive an offer. Do you like that area? Is there something fun that you can find in that immediate area? And if you know other interns, you might know other new hires that are starting around the same time as you are.
Thank you. We did get a couple more questions in. Is there an official mentorship program for interns and full-time employees to help you navigate through your projects or career at the company?
We have a coaching program in S&T, Science and Technology, but that's not for interns. But there's a lot of unofficial mentorship as well.
Yeah, I think as an intern, there wasn't.
Go ahead, Jackie.
I was just going to say, as an intern, there wasn't an official mentorship program, at least in my division. And then in terms of mentorship, when I went full-time, for my rotation program, there was a mentorship. And then once I got into my product management role, I actually joined like CPWF, which is a women's forum, and there was a somewhat official mentorship program there. So I think it kind of depends on where you are and where you look.
Mm-hmm. Are there specific specifications you need to meet as an intern?
So if you're talking about getting hired as an intern, any requirements would be listed in the job posting. And then as an intern, your boss will tell you on the first day or first few days, like what you need to do for your project. Usually, most of the internships also have like a post, at least at Corning, a lot of the internships have a poster fair at the end. So like you do all your work, you present, that's possibly in a PowerPoint, and then you have to make a poster as well. But other than that, I don't think there's any company-wide specific things.
Yeah, and I think that's a conversation you should have at the beginning of your internship with your manager as well. And it's also kind of a moving target, you know, based on where you are, you know, closer to the end of your internship. But yeah, for me, there was a poster session, and for some people, they have to present to, you know, higher managers. But that's really dependent on the group.
Okay, thank you. It is now 12:28. If there aren't any other questions, we appreciate you joining us today. If you think of questions after today, please feel free to reach out to any of us with questions. We'll get answers for you. And Jamie, Jackie, and Justin, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yes, thank you, guys.
I love doing stuff like this. So if you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Invited to this.
Thanks to everyone who joined in this
Yeah,
morning
thank
as well.
You. It was great.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.